Good morning. This is Kent Blaylock with SDG Bible Study. That's the SOLI DEO GLORIA Bible Study coming to you on this Thursday morning, March the 20th, 2025. I hope everyone is doing well as we're closing in on the end of a work week, and just thankful to be up and about and up and reading God's Word this morning as we continue in the Everyday Gospel, a devotional book by Paul David Tripp, taking a reading from the biblical text. And we're going to be in two chapters in Judges this morning. We're going to be in chapters 6 and 7 this morning. So join me as we read God's Word together. Judges chapter 6. Then the sons of Israel did what was evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and Yahweh gave them into the hands of Midian 7 years. And the power of Midian prevailed against Israel. Because of Midian, the sons of Israel made for themselves the dens which are in the mountains, and the caves, and the strongholds. And it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites would go up with the Amalekites and the sons of the east and go up against them. So they would camp against them and ruin the produce of the earth as far as Gaza, and leave no sustenance in Israel, as well as no sheep, ox, or donkey. For they would go up with their livestock and their tents. They would come in like locusts for number, but they and their camels were in both they and their camels were innumerable, and they came into the land to make it a ruin. So Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the sons of Israel cried out to Yahweh. Now it happened, when the sons of Israel cried out to Yahweh on account of Midian, that Yahweh sent a prophet to the sons of Israel, and he said to them, Thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, It was I who brought you up from Egypt and brought you out from the house of slavery. I delivered you from the hands of the Egyptians and from the hands of all your oppressors, and drove them out before you and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am Yahweh your God. You shall not fear the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live. But you have not listened to my voice. Then the angel of Yahweh came and sat under the oak that was at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Bezrite, as his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress in order to preserve it from the Midianites. The angel of Yahweh appeared to him and said to him, Yahweh is with you, O mighty man of valor. Then Gideon said to him, O my Lord, if Yahweh is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all his wondrous deeds, which our fathers recounted to us, saying, Did not Yahweh bring us up from Egypt? But now Yahweh has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian. Then Yahweh turned to him and said, Go in this strength of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Have I not sent you? But he said to him, O Lord, with what shall I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the least in Manasseh, and I am the youngest in my father's house. But Yahweh said to him, Surely I will be with you, and you shall strike down Midian as one man. So Gideon said to him, If now I have found favor in your eyes, then do a sign for me that it is you who speak with me. Please do not depart from me here until I come back to you, and I bring out my offering and lay it before you. And he said, I will remain until you return. So Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from an ephah of flour. He put the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, and brought them out to him under the oak, and presented them. And the angel of God said to him, Take the meat and the unleavened bread, and lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. Then the angel of Yahweh put out the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the meat and the unleavened bread, and fire sprang up from the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. Then the angel of Yahweh went away from before his eyes. And Gideon saw that he was the angel of Yahweh. So he said, Alas, O Lord Yahweh, for now I have seen the angel of Yahweh face to face. And Yahweh said to him, Peace to you, do not fear, you shall not die. So Gideon built an altar there to Yahweh and named it Yahweh is Peace. To this day it is still in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. Now it happened on the same night that Yahweh said to him, take your father's bull and a second bull, 7 years old, and pull down the altar of Baal, which belongs to your father, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it, and build an altar to Yahweh your God on the top of this stronghold in an orderly manner, and take the second bull and offer a burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah, which you shall cut down. So Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did as Yahweh had spoken to him. And now it happened that because he was too afraid of his father's household and the men of the city to do it by day, he did it by night. Then the men of the city arose early in the morning, and behold, the altar of Baal was torn down, and the Asherah, which was beside it, was cut down, and the second bull was offered on the altar which had been built. And they said to one another, who did this thing? And when they searched about and inquired, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, did this thing. Then the men of the city arose early in the morning, and behold, the altar of Baal was torn down, and the Asherah, which was beside it, was cut down. And the second, I'm reading the same thing over again. Verse 30, then the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son that he may die, for he has torn down the altar of Baal, and indeed he has cut down the Asherah, which was beside it. But Joash said to all who stood against him, will you contend for Baal, or will you save him? Whoever will contend for him shall be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself, because someone has torn down his altar. Therefore, on that day, he named him Jerubbaal, that is to say, let Baal contend against him, because he had torn down his altar. Now all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the sons of the east assembled themselves, and they crossed over and camped in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of Yahweh clothed Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and the Abiezrites were called together to follow him. And he sent messengers throughout Manasseh, and they also were called together to follow him. And he sent messengers to Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. And they came up to meet them. Then Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have spoken, behold, I will put a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. There is dew on the fleece only, and it is dry on all the ground. Then I will know that you shall save Israel by my hand, as you have spoken. And it was so. Indeed, he arose early in the next morning and squeezed the fleece, and he drained the dew from the fleece, a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, do not let your anger burn against me, that I may speak once more. Please let me make a test once more with the fleece. Let it be dry only on the fleece, and let there be dew on all the ground. And God did so that night. So it was dry only on the fleece, but dew was on all the ground. Now to chapter 7. Then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose early and encamped beside the spring of Harod. And the camp of Midian was on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And Yahweh said to Gideon, the people who are with you are too many for me to give Midian into their hands, lest Israel honor themselves, saying, my own hand has saved me. So now come, call out in the hearing of the people, saying, whoever is afraid and trembling, let him return and depart from Mount Gilead. So 22,000 people returned, but 10,000 remained. Then Yahweh said to Gideon, the people are still too many. Bring them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. And it will be that he of whom I say to you, this one shall go with you, he shall go with you. But every one of whom I say to you, this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water. And Yahweh said to Gideon, everyone who laps the water with his tongue as a dog laps, you shall set him aside by himself. And so also everyone who kneels to drink. Now the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men, but all the rest of the people kneeled to drink water. And Yahweh said to Gideon, I will save you with the 300 men who lapped, and will give the Midianites into your hands. So let all the other people go, each man to his place. So the 300 men took the people's provisions and their trumpets into their hands. And Gideon sent all the other men of Israel, each to his tent, but retained the 300 men, and the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. Now it happened the same night that Yahweh said to him, Arise, go down against the camp, for I have given it into your hands. But if you're afraid to go down, then both you and Purah, your young man, go down to the camp, and you will hear what they say, and afterward your hands will be strengthened, that you may go down against the camp. So he went with Purah, his young man, down to the outskirts of the armed men that were in the camp. Now the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the sons of the east were lying in the valley, as numerous as locusts, and their camels were without number, as numerous as the sand of the seashore. Then Gideon came, and behold, a man was recounting a dream to his friend, and he said, Behold, I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread was tumbling into the camp of Midian, and it came to the tent and struck it, so that it fell and turned it upside down, so the tent lay flat. And the friend answered and said, This is nothing less than the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. God has given Midian and all the camp into his hand. Now it happened that when Gideon heard the account of the dream and its interpretation, he bowed and worshiped. Then he returned to the camp of Israel and says, Arise, for Yahweh has given the camp of Midian into your hands. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put trumpets and empty pitchers in the hands of all of them, with torches inside the pitchers. Then he said to them, Look at me and do likewise. And behold, I will come to the outskirts of the camp, and it will be that just as I do, so you do likewise. And I and all who are with me will blow the trumpet. And you also shall blow the trumpets all around the camp and say, For Yahweh and for Gideon. So Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came to the outskirts of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, when they had just set up the watch. And they blew the trumpets and smashed the pitchers that were in their hands. Then the 3 companies blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers, and they held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands for blowing, and called out, A sword for Yahweh and for Gideon. And each stood in his place around the camp. Then all of the camp ran, and they made a loud shout, and fled. So they blew 300 trumpets, and Yahweh set the sword of one against another, even throughout the whole camp. And the camp fled as far as Beth Shittah toward Zerah, as far as the edge of Abel Maholah by Tabith. And the men of Israel were summoned from Naphtali and Asher and all Manasseh, and they pursued Midian. Now Gideon had sent messengers throughout all the hill country of Ephraim, saying, Come down to meet Midian and capture the waters before them, as far as Bethbara and the Jordan. So all the men of Ephraim were summoned, and they captured the waters as far as Bethbara and the Jordan. Then they captured the 2 princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb, and they killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and they killed Zeb at the winepress of Zeb. Then they pursued Midian and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon from across the Jordan. That's going to conclude our reading from the biblical text, I believe. Yes. And now for the reading of the devotional. Fear fails to rest in the power of the Lord and looks too much at the ability of oneself. Judges 6 is a masterclass on the anatomy of fear. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat underneath the terebinth at Ophrah, who belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor. Gideon said to him, Please, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where were all his wonderful deeds that our fathers recounted to us, saying, Did not the Lord bring us out from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us and given us into the hand of Midian. And the Lord turned to him and said, Go in this might of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you? And he said to him, Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said to him, But I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man. And he said to him, If now I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is you who speak with me. Judges chapter 6, verses 11 through 17. Pay attention to how fear operates in the face of the call of the Lord. Let me set the scene for you. God calls Gideon, who is threshing wheat in a winepress, to lead Israel against the Midianites. You crush grapes in a winepress, but wheat needs to be thrashed in an open, airy place so the wind can separate the grain from the chaff. Gideon is doing something inside that needed to be done outside because he is afraid of the Midianites. God knows exactly who he is calling. God often chooses the most unlikely person to do the grandest thing so that he gets the glory and not some human hero. Note how God greets this fearful man. The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor. Because the Lord is with him, mighty man of valor is in fact Gideon's true potential. But Gideon misses the point entirely and is afraid for two reasons. First, Gideon has come to doubt the presence, goodness, and faithfulness of the Lord, saying, God, if you are with us, then why has all this bad stuff happened to us? The defeat of Israel by the surrounding nations had nothing to do with the absence or weakness of the Lord. It was his discipline of Israel for their disobedience and idolatry. But a second thing contributes to Gideon's fear. He looks too much to his own experience and ability. Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least of my father's house. Here's the plan. God calls the weak to be vessels for the display of his power, so that he will get glory and our hearts will turn to worship him. That's going to conclude our reading this morning. What a fascinating story from the biblical text this morning here in Judges of the story of Gideon, the fear that he had, but how God mightily used him and 300 men against an army that was too vast to number. God worked in them, and he did so they couldn't boast in their own efforts and power when they did so. It's a lesson for us to lean heavily on God, to trust him, and not lean on our own understanding. Let him guide us. Let him be our strength and our shield. And that's what he desires. That's the heart he desires from you and I. And I pray that you lean heavily on the Lord this day and every day going forward. Hope you have a blessed day today. I hope you give God glory. Soli Deo Gloria.